Hi guys. Today I'll show you how to mix Vocaloid vocals, especially for rock and metal songs. Here's an example. It's very wide and powerful. Now let's listen to the vocals unmixed. The difference is like night and day. Now I'll show you how I achieve these results. First, I want to start off by saying that the DAW I use is Reverb. A DAW is essential for mixing. The first step for mixing vocals is adding saturation. This makes the vocals warmer and thicker. It's not essential, but I find it useful for making Vocaloid vocals sound a little more realistic. Your DAW should come with a saturation plugin. The one I use is called De-essing saturation. You don't need to add much, I only add around 5%. Here's what it sounds like. It's barely made a difference yet, but it will help the vocals in the mix when more effects are added to it. Now, time for the next step, which is adding compression. This is the first of two compressors that I add to my vocal mixing chain. I use a low attack of around 5 ms, a high release of 81 ms, a ratio of around 2 and a knee of 9 dB. The main goal here is to only compress the vocals by a few decibels, to tame the transients. Basically, it prevents the vocals from being too loud when they first start. I recommend to play around with the settings until you find something that works for you. The compressor plugin that comes with your DAW should have some stock presets for you to try, that you can adjust to fit your song. Here's what it sounds like. There's still not much of a difference, but I think that the vocals sound a little smoother. Now, on to the next step, which is EQ. I start by high-passing all frequencies below 150 Hz, as they don't add anything to the vocals. This prevents the vocals from clashing with instruments that sit in the low range, like the bass and kick drum. Then, I cut the lower mids, around 320 to 600 Hz, to prevent muddiness, and to stop the vocals from clashing with instruments that sit in the mid-range, like the guitars. Lastly, I take off some frequencies on the top shelf, around 4.8K to 12K Hz, as I find that Vocaloid vocals tend to have too many high frequencies, so taking some high frequencies off leads to the vocals sounding more realistic. It's important to play around with frequencies to see what makes the vocals in your song sound the best. Here's what it sounds like. Notice how the vocals are starting to fit in with the song, instead of just sitting on top of it. Now, on to the next step, which is the second compressor. The goal of this compressor is to slowly smooth out the dynamics over long periods of time. This time, I use a slightly higher attack of around 10 ms, a lower release of around 50 ms, a higher ratio of around 5 and a knee of 1.5 dB. This prevents the vocals from being too loud in some places, and makes it nicer to listen to. Here's what it sounds like. It's hard to hear the difference, but it is very important, especially for parts of the song like the chorus. The next step is to add a limiter. This is optional, but I think it's important for vocals, especially in rock or metal songs, that have a lot of compression and saturation. It helps to add more character and squashes any peaks that the compressors may not have caught. I use a threshold of around 15 dB and a release of around 25 ms. Here's what it sounds like. The vocals are starting to sit nicely in the mix. The next step is to add a de-esser. This stops sounds like S, SH, and CH from piercing through the mix. Play around with presets and see what works for your vocals, as you will need different settings for male and female voices. You can see my settings here. Here's what it sounds like. The difference is huge when you have S sounds in your vocals. It's pretty common in Japanese, so I'd recommend trying it. The last effect that we will add is Reverb. I use a plugin called Easy Mix 3, which makes it really easy to mix. It has loads of presets that you can experiment with and is great for those just starting out in production. I usually don't add delay to vocals. The preset I am using is called Big and Noisy, which adds some reverb and drive. The drive part is essentially just a little more saturation, which isn't important. I have my reverb time set to 1.31 seconds. Remember to always customize the values of presets to suit your song. If you don't have access to something like Easy Mix 3, then just use your DAW's stock reverb plugin. Here are my recommended settings. Here's what it sounds like. Now the vocals are fully mixed. Next I will show you some tips for mixing vocal layers. For vocal layers, I use a different reverb preset on Easy Mix 3, so that the layers have more reverb on them than the main vocals. I also add a delay preset, which makes the layers stand out a bit less. I recommend trying these settings. Here's what it sounds like. If I have two vocal layer tracks, I pan each track 40% right and 40% left. This makes the mix wider and gives it some texture. And that's all. Please comment if you have any other tutorial ideas or any questions. I hope I could help.